Did I ever tell you that you were one of the very first pianists I recorded at the BBC? I was
BBC?
At the BBC.
Oh.
I was training and worked for several years as a studio manager there.
Really?
And I was training. I was very green. You wouldn't have allowed me to record you if you knew how green I was at that stage. It was about 6 months into my time there. And I was with a more senior studio manager. And it was in the concert hall of the old broadcasting house, which is no longer there as a concert hall. It wasn't a concert, but I think it was probably something for educational purposes or something like that. It was a studio recording, yes.
Really?
It was certainly a studio recording. And he said, it's Valerie Tryon. She's very good. You'll like her. So go for it. You do it.
So did I meet you?
You certainly did. Oh. We did meet, yes. But I probably was too scared, sort of, to tell you my name or anything like that. But I do remember the circumstances.
You must have been like a little boy then.
I was, yes. I was 22. But very green, as I said. There was quite a lot of work like that, wasn't there? Not just concerts in those days.
There was a lot of work. I did some experimental work for some piano. They wanted to test a new kind of tuning which chimed in with Bach's 48 preludes and fugues. And it was terrible. I recorded it on this piano that the man had tuned, and he was all excited about it. But it sounded terrible. It just sounded like a very out-of-tune piano.
Uh-huh.
Nothing came of that.
Let's just talk a little bit about the Vaughan... No, we haven't time. Yes, the Vaughan Williams piece that you played this lunchtime. Suzanne Schulman, who I believe is here, she came up to me afterwards and said, it's very much like the English weather, isn't it? And that piece of music, in other words, it's cloudy with sunny periods or sunny with cloudy periods. That's how the music goes. I think it's a very appropriate description of it. Did you find that?
Yes, it is. Perfect, yes. Yes, it is very English. And like the English countryside, it changes frequently.
Yeah. You've never played that before?
No. I hope to have the opportunity to play it again. It's a lovely, lovely piece, I think. He didn't apparently want it. Joel was telling me that he didn't want it to be played. He thought it was too romantic.
Huh. You also, as well as perform on stage, you also teach. How would your students describe you as a teacher?
Patient. Tolerant. Well, I'm not really a demanding teacher. I don't feel the need to drive the student. If they don't have any drive, then there's no point in trying to push it into them, I think. They have to want to do it, to be good. So I don't... I try to help them with everything they're doing and suggest things. But as far as pushing them, that's up to them.
If you're a young pianist today, if one is a young pianist today, is it easier now, do you think, than when you started out?
No, it's so hard now. Terribly hard. The competition is enormous. I forget how many Chinese pianists are coming out of China now. But they're all wonderful. I mean, their techniques are impeccable. They're just coming out in droves. So how can everybody possibly make a career?
Yeah. Does it make a difference these days being a woman, a female pianist?
I've always wondered about that. I don't know whether it does make a difference.
Was it hard when you were first starting out?
I think it was, partly because of my personality, but also because I was a girl. If I was playing with a very famous conductor, if they wanted me to play faster or softer or whatever, I would feel that I had to say, okay, simply because they were distinguished and they were much older than me. And so I didn't feel I could say, I'm sorry, but this is the way I want it to go. And in fact, I did a promenade concert with Sir Colin Davis.
Oh, yes.
Not Andrew, Sir Colin. And I played a Beethoven piano concerto, and he had me at his house to go through it. And he said he thought it was too fast, and would I play it slower? So because he was Sir Colin Davis, at that time he wasn't a Sir, but he was very distinguished, and I said, okay. And then when I played it, the next day in the Sunday Telegraph, they said it was too slow.
Dear editor. Oh dear. Tell me about something I find very interesting. You and I know very little about this, but you've made a lot of recordings recently using a MIDI keyboard recording. Hundreds of recordings.
I've made much better ones than that.
Oh, well, yes, the digital recordings with real pianos, yes.
There's a company called APR, they've done quite a lot, and some Naxos ones. But the MIDIs I did on a Roland piano. As you know, they're not the best. And I did a lot of repertoire on them. It was for a doctor who had something called Band in a Box. And he decided to do a lot of classical music.
Uh-huh.
And he asked me if I would do it. And
you basically recorded the entire repertoire, didn't
well,
you?
a lot, yes. He wanted me to do as much
recordings
as I could.
I've read?
Yes.
900?
Quite a lot,
That's a lot of work.
It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I knew the man, Ken G, who did it all in Aberdeen Avenue, and we used to just get together and I would play and he would record. It's one good thing about those kind of recordings, that you can make a noise. It doesn't come out on the on the disc.
It's a digital instrument from the word go.
Yes.
Yeah. But your regular catalogue, let's say, LPs and CDs, that's quite extensive. Do you know how many recordings you've made?
No.
Do you have them? You must have them all on a bookshelf somewhere.
I have an ex-husband. And he takes charge of all my recordings because he thinks I give them away. So he keeps them. And I have just one copy of everything I've done. That's all. And I have to go and beg him if I want any more.
Do you have this list? It's not on your website. I just see the most recent recordings there, I think. Do you have a complete catalogue somewhere?
There is a list somewhere.
Is there?
Yes, I think so.
I'd be interested in seeing that. There are some treasured recordings in there. Campoli, of course, is one that's talked about.
Yes.
Tell me about that. The violinist, Alfredo Campoli.
Yes. He was playing with Peter Caton for the BBC, and he was his partner, and he was in his 60s. And Peter and he had a disagreement, I think. And then the BBC called me and said, would I like to take over and be his partner? So, of course, I was thrilled because Alfredo was wonderful. And so I was quite young and he was quite old, but we did very nice concerts together for a long time. And he was a great partner. I did what he said all the time because he was older than me.
Well, great partner in that sense, to make it work. You've also recorded a little more recently with the Rembrandt Trio. How long was that trio been in existence?
It was really quite fruitful for quite a long time, but Gerard now is in his 80s.
This is a piano trio.
Conrad and I sometimes play together. But we had quite a nice time of recording for Dorian, yes. And we did several. I don't know how many records there are, about 5 or 6. We did Brahms, Mendelssohn, Schubert, Ravel. Yes, quite a few things.
And your other recordings, I read about them from time to time, and I got some of them, particularly the CBC ones, but you have some BBC recordings as well?
Yes, there are some, yes. I've got quite a collection somewhere.
We're not going to hear them today, then. There must also be a lot of studio recordings from the BBC that you've done over the years that may be in the archives or may not.
Well, they may be in the archives. I don't think I have those. I don't know when they destroy them. Do they keep them?
No, I don't. I really don't know.
When did you leave the BBC?
I left when I came here in 1977.
I see.
Yeah. Do you have a preference for the live versus the recorded?
I prefer recorded because then if you make a mistake, you can put it right. It's very nerve-wracking to do it live.
Tell me which composers you played the most over the years. Which is your core sort of repertoire?
Probably Chopin and Liszt. A certain amount of Mozart, some Beethoven, lots of Ravel and Debussy, because Jacques Février was, he knew Ravel, and so I had a lot of wonderful instruction on that. And very little modern music, but I play everything, and I love everything.
You have a huge repertoire.
I do, but I love everything. But I'm afraid of playing Bach.
Uh-huh. Why is that?
He terrifies me. Well, because it's so complex. It's wonderful, but if you lose your way, I don't know how Angela Hewitt has nerves of steel, because she'll play all the preludes and fugues without the music. I couldn't possibly do that. It's just that if you should get lost, you can't make it up until you find it again.
So you don't enjoy going out on stage and doing a musical improvisation?
No. No.
Well, I think I can see your fingers beginning to move now, and I think we should really let you go, because in half an hour you'll be on that stage. And I want to thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you, Keith.
It's been a long time coming, but I'm very glad that we've done it today.
Thank you so
thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you.